Hello, my name is Jared Kipe. I am the founder of Hibou, and we're a gold partner out of the United States in the Pacific Northwest. So today's talk is titled Power Up Your HR and Employee Management with Odoo. And let me go over here, or not. Brief technical difficulties here. Okay, so while this is an HR topic, and I'm sure that you've been to a lot of HR talks with Odoo before, we're going to be talking about some scenarios that cannot be addressed out of the core. And so we're covering specifically these kind of modules from our open source work. I'll do my best to try to remember their names and specifically when they come up during the flow, because for the most part it's just going to be like a normal HR demonstration. So, to set the stage here, we're working in a company called Hibou Sweets with a bakery, if you will, that is trying to hire some new employees specifically related to a delivery team. So to kind of get things kicked off, we're going to come over into recruitment. These are all job positions. They're the same job that you select when you're filling in an employee form at the kind of the first place, right? But with recruitment installed, they have a lot more things going on. So they've got hired percentages and things, and we'll get to that. So I'll create a new one, and we'll title this delivery driver. And we could do the job alias, but we'll create an edit and find more. So we need a new department, as it's a new department. So I will title this delivery. Create an edit. I'll make myself the manager of it. And we'll set the parent department to be sales. When we saved, we've got sales/delivery because of that parent-child relationship. Interview form, which comes from the survey module. It's very useful. I'm not going to be going into it too much today, specifically because the form in it, well, rather I want to point out though that the form in its kind of native state is not really appropriate for the US market, so just keep that in mind. You need to change some of those questions. Job location is basically just where the employee would be showing up to work, so that if you have multiple locations, you choose the one that's related to that specific office. Email alias, you can set up to basically allow somebody to email that alias and it'll just create a new job application. It's very useful for like a business card or something that you might want to hand out, and then they can apply online like that. Recruitment responsible, I'll put myself, and then over here for HR responsible, I'll put myself as well. I'll change this to 2, and we'll go ahead and hit save. So we're in recruitment in progress. We can, of course, stop recruitment, and we'll see later how the kind of percentages of that work. The first thing that I want to talk about that's slightly custom is this expenses area over here. So I'll click on it, and we'll get a little tree view to be able to create a new expense. And because of the fact that I came there from the job, it's already linked to it, but this is the new field here. And that allows you to collect up expenses, like let's say monster.com, that are related to actually hiring an employee for reporting purposes and things. New thing here, also vendor. If you're familiar with expenses and stuff in general, one of the things you probably run into is that when you're reconciling an expense, the employee is the person that the expense goes with, and it can be a little confusing depending on how your organization is set up. So I'm going to choose monster.com as the actual vendor here, and I'll put $150 as the expense. We're going to say that it's a company expense, and from here on out, I'm basically just going to go through the workflow real fast to finish it. Okay, so now the expense is done. If I pop all the way back out to my job position here, I'll see that my smart button is updated with the new total amount of expenses that have been accrued for that job position. I can also go over to accounting real fast and show you more about that reconciliation, because if I reconcile here, it automatically found the reconciliation because I don't have that many things going on in here. But you'll note that it actually attached the vendor as the partner on record for this particular expense and not the employee. So it does make reconciliation easier if that's a problem that you're finding yourself in. All right, so we'll go back over to my recruitment form, or recruitment job. So we'll go to the front end of the website. Everybody's probably familiar with the way this works, but I'll go ahead and edit and drag in a little block over here, and probably seen it a couple of times, but we'll change the photo and we'll just make this look a little bit worse, and then we'll save it. So we got the publish slider up here, and we'll publish it, and now we can just take this URL and go over to our, well, actually, I guess we can go to jobs postings over here, and we'll have our delivery driver, including the place that the selected position is at. So we can come over here and apply now. We'll make Jim. Phone number. And say something like, I'm a driver. So that you can think of this as kind of your cover letter section, and you can, of course, attach a resume. So we'll submit, and we'll come back over here, get back into the back end. And we'll see that we have one application. Clicking on that brings up the applications. It's a typical Kanban view, much like project management. So you can have different stages. These are, in fact, there's no stages out of the box. So these are just kind of some ones that I put in. But you kind of, move them through the process and eventually, hire them. So I'm going to come in here and use the Create Employee button. You'll note some of the information from this, including the apply job, department, the phone number and stuff, is actually going to follow right along into the employee that we create. So let's go ahead and edit this employee. We'll give him a photo. And we can put in some public information. Okay. We'll use the publish on the website button to go to the front end again. And we can join Jim into the team just as easy as that. Any questions up to this point? All right, it's mostly stock stuff, not hugely surprised. So let's talk about leaves. So one thing that comes up quite often with leaves is that you want to grant a certain amount of time periodically, potentially when the employee begins. So what we can do is we can change this to be by tag, which is stock Odoo, and we'll make a new tag called new hire. And we'll grant maybe 3 days to begin with. And we'll make a new one called PTO, paid time off. And right now, this won't really do anything. If you've used this functionality before, it shouldn't be a surprise to you. That tag we just created, no employees have that tag, so it's not going to do anything. But we can choose this grant by tag button option here and approve this, allocation. Now, if we go and take this new hire tag and go attach it onto my employee that I just hired, when I save it, Jim will immediately get 3 leaves. So that's pretty cool, but we can do a little bit better here. We can go back over to our leaves allocation, and we'll see that what actually happened is that by tag 1 was kind of treated as a template and got copied over to be Jim's kind of situation here. But we can come and add the accrue by pay period instead. So accruing by pay period basically means that every time that you confirm a pay slip, this part of allocation per pay period will be applied. Now, we could have and should have done this when we set up the first allocation, and we still should if we were going to continue to use that tag on new employees. But realistically, we can actually have a per employee kind of allocation, and this is just the outcome of what happens when you apply that tag. So we'll give Jim half a day. Oh, by the way, the math for that, right? So, it's dependent on your organization. Most people or most organizations have bands. So the longer you're with the company, the more time you get. But usually you don't want to get it all up front like we just did with those 3 days. You actually want to allocate it over a period of time. So you take the time that you want to allocate, like say 6 days or something, and then you divide it by the pay periods that you're going to do. So if you're going to have monthlies for 6, then it's half a day basically per pay period. We can also set a cap on that, so we could say that we don't want more than 4 days of accrual. Hit save. So now to actually action that, we'll have to make a payslip. So to be able to do that, I will go and create an employee contract. And we'll say Jim 2018. We have a salary structure. We'll pick the California employee. And we have to give a wage. We'll say $2,000 a month. Over on the other information, I will fill in the journal for payroll. And that's pretty much all that I really need to do to get this working, other than setting it and running. It's of Odoo 11. It has to be running for it to show up in payroll. So we'll create a payslip for Jim. And we will compute sheet. See that it discovered the contract and the salary structure and everything. We see all of the information that comes through for a California employee. And at this point, we can confirm. Maybe. So the employee immediately got half a day. And in fact, if we duplicate this payslip and compute and confirm, so this will be 4 days now. And if we do it once more, we'll see that we have, in fact, hit the limit. And no more October payslips are going to be giving him any more days off. And back to Jim, we're capped at 4. So those were some of the modules. Specifically, we discussed the expenses on job types, and some other ones here. Why don't we just go back over to our list. So we have covered the HR expense recruitment, the HR expense vendor, we haven't done employee activity, holidays accrual, and let's move on to holidays partial. So basically, in stock Odoo, if we go to take a leave, and I'll go and make one here for Jim, you'll probably be aware of this limitation, which is that if we try to take a day out here, we'll actually, let's get this back on the same day, and we'll clear these times a little bit to make it easier to read. So we'll say 8. And we'll do the same thing over here. And we'll change this from 8 to, say, 12, which will be a 2-hour break, basically, or a 2-hour partial leave. And you'll see that it has computed 2 hours and displayed that. And it's actually allowing us to take a partial day. So we're not enforcing what comes out of the box, which is a 1 day per leave request, basically, minimum, really. So the math for that, obviously, internally, the number of hours in a day is set as 8 hours per day. And so effectively, if you're taking 2 hours, you're taking a quarter of a day. If we take this and set the time to 16, then we will take 0.75 days. Now, once we get over 1 day, or rather over 8 hours, it's going to fall back to basically the same behavior that we had before. So at this point, if we want more days, we would have to actually go for more days than just 8 hours. So at this point, it's just like stock, but we'll go ahead and take that back down just to do the demo, I guess. And we'll approve that. And we'll see that Jim has dropped back down and is now eligible to receive more time. All right, so another thing before I leave Jim is that we might want to schedule out that new hire tag coming away and possibly a new one. So you can do reviews and things like that. We have schedule activity. We could do one for, we'll just do a to-do, and we'll say 1 year review, and we'll set this out to the next year. October 9th. Schedule. Might be surprised, but that is not stock functionality. It somehow missed. They missed a lot of the HR stuff when they were assigning activities out. All right, let's take a look at my list here, and I think we're more or less moving on to the final one, which is the payroll payments. So all these pay slips that we had, they've been accruing balances for the employee in the back end, and if we use our register payment button up here, it will pull out any unreconciled accounts payable from the journal entry that's linked onto this, and you get that as your total. It'll also pull over the slip, and you can choose your bank and choose to print a check, and go and print a check in accounting. And that's pretty much the end of that. So any questions? There's a lot of scenarios there. I'm sure you guys have a lot of scenarios as well. Okay. Well, thank you for coming to the talk then.